Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Jupiter moving into Gemini on May 25th, 2024 for a year until June 9th, 2025. We're going to talk through the archetypes of Jupiter and Gemini, what it means for the collective, and I'll go through each sign as well. So first, let's talk about who this is going to be affecting the most. So I feel like the people who are going to be most affected are going to be anybody who has major placements in mutable signs. The mutable signs are Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces, as well as anybody who has their Jupiter in Gemini, because this is your Jupiter return that happens every 12 years. For everybody else, also, Jupiter only ingresses into the same sign every 12 years. So this is the beginning of a new 12-year cycle, right after we had a 14-year cycle happen with Jupiter and Uranus in the house of Taurus. So let's break down what each of these components, Jupiter and Gemini, can represent, the archetypes they can represent, so then we can get a better understanding of what possible things can happen during this transit. So for Jupiter, I'm taking from the archetypal universe, and the principles we have for Jupiter are impulses towards growth and expansion, optimism, generosity, tolerance and acceptance of others, broadened experience, and integration into larger wholes. That one's really important. There are tendencies towards inflation and excess, pride and arrogance, self-righteousness, and a sense of entitlement. The Jupiter archetype manifests through our impulses to grow, reach out and expand our range of experience, to embrace wider perspectives, and to integrate ourselves into more inclusive wholes. Study, travel, and deep exploration are some of the satisfying ways to meet these needs and broaden our horizons. Okay, so obviously there's a lot more to Jupiter than that, but we're just doing a little brief synopsis. And then I want to read a little bit about Gemini from a different book, The Inner Sky. So we pull from all types of astrology here on this channel. Okay, so Gemini is born to perceive, to gorge itself with observations. This sign must remain in motion all the time. There is so much to see and know. The thrust of this sign, though, is not intellection. It's raw perception. Not thinking, but seeing. Gemini is not so much a philosopher, side note, like a Sagittarius, as a journalist. The undigested facts of perception, not their meaning, are its food. It only wants to see, to witness the world. Ideas and understanding may arise, but they are not the point. I talked a little bit about Gemini in my previous video, a little bit more in depth about it, but one of the things that I think is really interesting is that in here he talks about how we all create a picture of a universe that makes sense to us. And as we go through life, we look for evidence, we look for facts to support the universe that we've created. And regarding that, he says Gemini must violate that instinct. It must strive to see clearly, regardless of how incomprehensible its perceptions might be. If they are confused, they are right on target. That just means the information they've gathered is ahead of their ability to figure it out. So that, I think, is really going to color what we are talking about during this video, in the sense that we have this planet that's about integrating things into a larger whole. And then we have this sign, which is about violating that instinct to have a picture of a universe in our minds or an idea of how life should be. So this is why we talk about Jupiter being detriment in Gemini. Actually, if you want to break it down further, it's because Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces, and so the opposite of those signs are where the planet is in detriment, so Gemini and Virgo. Now, I think personally that Jupiter does a little bit better in Gemini than it would in Virgo, because Jupiter, Gemini and Sagittarius share an axis. So they're very different in a lot of ways, but they're also very similar and they can learn a lot from each other. So I actually think even though Jupiter is in detriment in the sign, I don't think that's a bad thing, right? I don't think it's negative. I just think it allows us to see a different side of Jupiter. So some of the negative ways that Jupiter and Gemini can show up. Let's just get the negatives out of the way. I have a tendency to talk a lot more about the positive sometimes. So this can show up as having too many ideas, lacking depth and interested in breadth, being scatterbrained, difficulty committing to ideas and opportunities, or having a shallow understanding of things. That can definitely look like that from the outside. Another one of the big things is that there's a lack of commitment to follow through on anything. Because as we saw, Gemini, the archetype of Gemini can come to understanding and have these big ideas, but that's not the point of Gemini. The point of Gemini is to perceive. And so we get Jupiter, who is Zeus, the king of the gods. There is slightly a thing about power there, into a sign that is just about seeing and nothing more, observing and then maybe talking about the things that they've seen, and not necessarily having to come to a point, having to come to an understanding, having it integrated into a larger piece of the puzzle. That's definitely more of a Sagittarius thing. And so, of course, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. But, when we talk about Hermes, and we could talk about these archetypes forever, in my opinion, there's so many things to be said about them. But when we talk about Hermes or Mercury, this is a god that could traverse the underworld, the heavens, and the mortal world. And it was the messenger of the gods. So being able to see all of that, see the heaven, the underworld, the mortal realm, allows Hermes or Mercury to be able to perceive everything. And that's part of the reason why Gemini tends to lean that way. But I think the positive from this is that when you are just perceiving, you go beyond duality. So Geminis are often thought to be the dual sign, and there's actually more than just Gemini that can be seen as dual sign. I think actually Pisces would be a better example of a dual sign, but that's not what this video is about. But for me, when I think about Gemini, it's that we are forced to perceive all sides of a situation. That is literally the evolutionary and psychological goal of a Gemini placement. So we see both sides, the dual thing. We see both sides. And also, because we can see both sides, or really all the sides, we have to recognize that there is something beyond the duality. And that's where I think Gemini really shines, is by looking at your side and their side and saying, you know what, I think that both of you guys could be right. Like, can we live in a universe where it may not make sense to us, it may be confusing, but I can remain open enough to recognize that, like, maybe both of us can be right. Both of you guys can be right. And if we're talking about the state of the collective right now, there is so much division, and this energy, if we choose to, right? The stars don't compel, they impel, right? So we get a choice to consciously engage with this planet in a way that is more positive. And with that being, what that means is that we can choose to, during such heightened times of war and just so much going on in the world and tension, we can choose to say, hey, maybe, you know what, maybe you could be right. That's crazy, right? Like, I know it sounds, when I talk about it, it may sound really easy, but I think when we have these like deeply held beliefs, it can be really difficult to even allow the idea that somebody else could be right, even though it doesn't make sense to us. And I think that is a beautiful way to use Jupiter and Gemini as a collective, and also obviously in our personal lives, because we are a part of the collective. Our personal lives are a part of the collective. Yeah, so I want to talk about how Jupiter is like the guru. It has this desire to form our beliefs into a belief system, into law, into higher education, into philosophy, to make it make sense, to be like a type of framework. And Gemini has to find this peace that they're literally just here to see, and not look for peace in understanding. Even if understanding comes, not being reliant on that. Like I said, Gemini signifies the duality of the human experience, and in seeing that, recognizing that nothing is dual. It's interesting, once you go beyond duality, you recognize that there is no duality. But Jupiter is about having everything come to like a single conclusion. I follow actually a lot of Sagittarians on this platform that aren't even into astrology. I just know they're Sagittarius because that's what astrologers do. But it is very interesting to watch them. And like I said, I have I don't know if I've said in this video, but I have said it before, that I have a Sagittarius moon. I have Jupiter in the first house. So I definitely am in touch with the Jupiter and Sagittarius aspects of life, but my sun is in Gemini, so definitely have that aspect too. But it's so interesting to watch the Sagittarian creators that on this platform that are they have like this big overlying belief or underlying belief, and everything on their channel is pointing towards that, and there's so much passion towards that goal, and it's almost like there's positives and negatives to that. But one of the things that I want to bring up, because Jupiter is moving into Gemini and it gives us an opportunity to look at things differently, is that oftentimes when we are like that, we lose a lot of nuance, and we lose a lot of other information. It's almost like tunnel vision in a way, because you have your mindset on a single idea that is correct. And because my moon is in Sagittarius, I definitely feel this way internally. I don't express it as often, and it's something that I've worked a lot with to come to a state of balance between my Gemini sun and Sagittarius moon, because they're in opposition, so balance is the goal. To understand that internally I can have these very deep convictions, but yet I can also look and see the nuance in that, and see that, who am I to say that other people aren't correct? And I think if I can sum it up to say that Jupiter wants to know the truth, and Gemini says that there are many. And so how can we harness that in a way that's positive without leaning into excess, where it becomes negative and we're not following through on anything, and we're not getting anything done, and we're being there's excess of thoughts and perception and no dots being connected. But really it can bring back curiosity and a desire to learn about the other side. Like, just imagine if people chose to do that consciously during this next year, how much of our collective energy would change or could shift, So here is my advice for Jupiter and Gemini for everybody: to maintain a wide open and receptive state, to give permission for the world to not make sense. If you find it difficult to do this, and or are prone to overthinking, especially if you have any of your big three in air signs, so Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, and also if you have Virgo in those big three, because Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, so there can be some overthinking there. Remember that you can always come back to the breath. Decide to explore one thing at a time to bring you back to center. So I think grounding during Jupiter and Gemini is going to be very, very important for those of us who tend to get kind of whisked away by the air. Like, you know. So also I want to talk about being aware for burnout, because Gemini rules the nervous system and Jupiter can be expansive or excessive. So there can be an overloaded nervous system if we're not grounding. Because Gemini is about kind of staying busy and Jupiter is excess, it kind of adds to that. It's like we may be like doing a lot of things and moving from place to place, and we'll have to consciously kind of bring ourselves back to a place of centeredness and groundedness before moving forward. There are a handful of interesting aspects that are happening while Jupiter is in Gemini, one of them being that it squares Saturn and Pisces multiple times. I might bring that up for some of the signs, but I'm not going to go super in depth in this video. I just want to give an overall view of Jupiter and Gemini, and then I'll talk about those things as they come up. One of the things though, it is going to be trining Pluto very soon after it moves into Gemini. So I might talk about that in a different video as well. Like I said, if you have Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, this transit may be a little bit more noticeable for you. And also, the last time that Jupiter was in Gemini was from June 2012 to June 2013 in the same part of your chart. So if you can think back to that time and think about what was going on in your life, it might give you a better idea of generally what to expect. Obviously, there's so many other different transits at this time, so it's not going to be perfect. But when I look back to my last Jupiter in Gemini transit, I can definitely get a sense as to where Jupiter in Gemini was playing. So without further ado, let's get into each of the signs. All right, so for Aries sun and rising, Jupiter rules your 9th and 12th house and is going into your 3rd house. So what I can see a lot of Aries sun and rising doing during this time is learning more about spirituality, yoga, philosophy, even law, and lots of travel, because your 9th house lord is coming into your 3rd house, and both of those houses are about short distance travel and long distance travel. Actually, I'm going to pull a card for you guys before I get any further so I can just see what the energy is. Okay, oh my gosh, that's amazing, you guys. This is like Aries energy. So, okay, all right, we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so I could see something like you're making long distance travel a part of your regular routine because of the 9th house lord going into the 3rd house. That's pretty specific, but I can see that for some of you guys. There could be more opportunities and joy relating to your cousins, your neighbors, the people around you, your siblings, anyone who's in your immediate and regular environment, roommates. And maybe you guys are connecting to them based on your beliefs or belief systems, or through spiritual topics like hypnotherapy, astrology, meditation, tarot, and anything else that you deem spiritual. Prayer even. And also, your subconscious and self-limiting beliefs may be coming up during this time to be examined and talked about as well. So this transit is giving you a really supportive time to look at your self-limiting beliefs and your subconscious with more lightness and from more of an abundance mindset. And that's another thing that could be more abundant right now, is that your thoughts and mindset, because Jupiter is moving into your 3rd house of communication, thoughts, beliefs. Well, no, not beliefs. Communication, thoughts, writing, mindset. And so it's going to naturally bring some optimism into that part of your life. And even if you're a writer, you could see that coming through in your writing. Maybe you're writing about abundance. Maybe you're writing about Jupiterian things. And because of the 9th house influence, if you are wanting to write a book, this can be a house of publishing. So you could be getting it published during the next year. But in general, when we've got the 3rd and 9th house, some of the main themes involved, connected, Some of the main themes are travel, like I said, and also learning. So Jupiter is moving into your third house. So you may be more likely to be learning skill sets. So learning, like maybe taking little classes here, maybe a certificate course here. Maybe you're just learning a new skill. It's not looking like it would be something like going back to college or getting your master's or something like that. But that could happen because they are still connected to the ninth house, which rules more of the higher education, higher learning. Yeah, so in general, learning is very supportive right now. So don't hold yourself back from learning or studying anything new right now, especially any of the topics I mentioned earlier. So you could also be wanting to talk about your belief systems too with other people. The only thing I would say is that Jupiter in Gemini is prone to overthinking and being too scatterbrained and being too lost in the perceiving, especially when it's in the third house of communication. And the third house is like short trips. It's very much in your immediate environment. Things that I talked about in the beginning of this video could be even more prevalent for Aries sun and rising, in the sense that you could be really busy. You could feel like there's just a lot happening in your immediate environment. And so like, don't forget to once in a while look up and out and make sure that whatever you're doing is in some way working towards a higher goal. That's not the purpose of this transit really, but it's a way to bring us back into balance, right? Because Jupiter and Gemini are opposites in a lot of ways. So, as Aries though, you guys are generally pretty action oriented, and I don't feel like you're gonna fall into the trap of like overthinking as much as other people do. That's one of the things I love about Aries. So you can allow all of the ideas and the perceptions that are happening around you to come to you, and let yourself be intuitive about which ones you want to explore further, rather than just perceiving for the sake of perceiving. While that has its place, sometimes it can just get a little overwhelming. So also, I want you to think about June 2012 to June 2013, because that's the last time that Jupiter was in Gemini for you guys. Think about in what areas of your life were you expanding on? Were you finding more joy and optimism during that time? And that might give you a clue as to what you could possibly see during this transit. So let's talk a little bit about the Fool. The Fool is the first major arcana card, and he is about to just jump up. This is the Aries card, because you guys are the first sign in the zodiac cycle, and this is the first major arcana card in the tarot. So this is very much about starting new adventures with like everything I said earlier about Jupiter and Gemini, like maintaining in the beginning of the video about maintaining like a wide open receptive state. That's the Fool energy. It's like ready to start something new, ready to jump into something that they aren't even sure what is going to happen. This is such a beautiful card to get for Jupiter and Gemini, because the Fool energy, while it's Aries, it also has this like childlike wonder about it that is very much like Gemini to me. So also, because it's a major arcana card, it tells me that you guys are really going to feel this transit more than maybe you thought you would, because if you don't have any planets in the air signs, or you don't have anything in Virgo and you thought you wouldn't feel this. No, this tells me that this year is big for you guys. You're gonna look back on this year and you're gonna think, oh, that was a memorable year. Something big happened during this time. Like I said, because this house rules like publishing, getting work published. If you are in higher education, you could be getting a thesis published or your dissertation or something like that. What I will say is that Jupiter is about expansion, but it also has this like refining characteristic if we can tune into that. So it's not just about learning everything that you can, but learning about the right things, not about finding joy in relating with the people around you, but making sure that the people around you and your immediate environment are actually the right ones for you. Jupiter, I think that's a lesser known thing about Jupiter, is that Jupiter just doesn't expand everything into positives. It'll show you if there are people in your immediate environment or trips that you're making on a constant regular basis, or things that you're doing in your daily life, or something that you're learning that isn't really in line with what you want to be learning about. And like I said, because you've got the 9th and 12th house lord going into the 3rd house, maybe you've been learning about one thing and now you're more interested in more spiritual topics. And the Fool card is telling me, like, yeah, you should go towards it and have a sense of childlike wonder for Jupiter in Gemini. So I'd love to hear from my Aries people how that resonates for you guys in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, so for my Taurus sun and rising, Jupiter rules your 8th and 11th house, and it's going into your 2nd house. Now, let's pull a card before we go any further so I can kind of get a gauge on where your guys' energy's at for Taurus sun and rising. Very, very interesting. Okay, I want to make sure that I mention that you guys had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that happened in your 1st house. Now, I have a video about that. I'll link that below. And that started a new 14-year cycle. With that, when we have something that big happening in our 1st house, as well as North Node transiting your 12th house, meaning that it is aligned for you right now to be going through loss, betrayal. I know that sounds so harsh, but it's like, this is because I think you guys are moving towards something way bigger. And so we have to make some space right now. And so if you're wanting to withdraw, if you're wanting to rest, if you want more seclusion right now as a Taurus sun and rising, know that that's totally okay. And that when you have a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction happen in your 1st house, like, good things will come, right? It's a long cycle, but allow what needs to be grieved to grieve right now while you have North Node in the 12th house until January 2025. I'm not saying you have to grieve the whole time and be in seclusion, but you might have more periods where you want to be in seclusion, where you need to withdraw, where you want to go somewhere where there is peace for you. And, or, you know, even traveling abroad could be helpful, you know, going overseas somewhere, maybe for like a meditation retreat. Anyway, I'm getting off track a little bit, but I just wanted to mention that. Because this transit, this Jupiter in Gemini in your 2nd house, is going to bring up a lot of stuff around money for you. And yeah, so Jupiter was in your 1st house, and it helped you refine and streamline what you've learned about your identity, your outlook on life, your attitude, and even your physical body and how you take care of your physical body. And now you're taking this energy into your 2nd house of values and self-esteem, which really makes sense, because it's like when you've refined and really expanded on certain aspects of you, then the next step is to say, okay, now how are my values and my self-esteem changing? And that's what the 2nd house rules, along with income, money, and material resources. So maybe in the previous Jupiter in Taurus transit, there was something that came up that was no longer in alignment. And like I've talked about with Jupiter, that it doesn't just hand you whatever you want in the way that you want all the time. There's a refined nature to it. So when we refine, sometimes that means that some things don't go our way or are lost in the process. And nothing great can come without some sort of sacrifice like that. So this Jupiter in Gemini, for me, feels really, really good about you feeling more uplifted in your self-esteem and discovering more of your own values. Now that you've shifted into almost like a new way of being, what comes next is having to like realign your values, your self-esteem, and the work that you do, because to reflect this new personality that you've taken on, or the ways that your personality has changed. So the goal is to remain receptive and open during this time to see what comes up, and not try to force your job, your money, your income to come to you in a certain way. But, you know, when I see Jupiter in the second house, it can definitely give you a raise in finances, earn income, and material resources during this transit. Or at least refine it in a way that makes the job that you're doing, maybe you're not doing as much, or you could be doing a lot more, because Jupiter in Gemini is varied. But even if you're deciding to refine more and kind of make it less jobs that you're doing, you may be getting more income from those, or you may be deciding to branch out and do a bunch of different jobs, and then therefore getting more income that way. So it's really up to you how you want to use that energy. But when I see Jupiter in the second, like I said, especially like a lot of celebrities have Jupiter in the second, which is they have a lot of money and they probably have a grandiose self-esteem. So also watch out for that, you know, being overly self-obsessed or something like that. But I can see one of the ways is that you're finding multiple income streams, like I said. And because Jupiter is your 8th and 11th house ruler, I can see this multiple income streams coming from your network, your friends, social groups, the internet. And it could be from investments, inheritances, loans, or financial support from other people that you have had in the past that is now paying off. You could also decide to go into a field that is ruled by the 11th or 8th house. So I would say, like, for the 11th, it would be something that's humanitarian or astrology even. And the 8th house would be like psychology. And I would say any really occult subjects like astrology could fall underneath that as well. Astrology, tarot, human design, because if you view them through the realm of psychology, then they can fit in the 8th house in that way, as well as the occult. Anything that has to do, you could be making money with anything that has to do with transformation. You could be helping other people transform. People could be watching you transform. And yeah, okay, so, well, I forgot about this. All right, so we have for you guys the 8 of Pentacles. The 8 of Pentacles is actually really, number one, basics. It has to do with pentacles, which rule the earth element. So your material life, and which is what this Jupiter in the second house, it's an earth house, it's a house of Taurus, right? So this coincides with what I was just saying, and with this transit, that there is, I just got chills. I just got so much information I want to share with you guys. Okay. You are for sure honing in on your skill set to make money. The 8 of Pentacles is, if you see him, he's just sitting, chipping away at the pentacle, and he is, he has figured out kind of some of the things that are really important to him that he wants to work further towards, because the 7 of Pentacles that comes before this is very similar, but this is about like you knowing what skills you want to do and deciding to further advance those skills and to make money from them, which is literally exactly what I just said. But it just makes me feel, just reaffirms what I was saying, that there are multiple ways this could be coming to you, but regardless, I see this being a new refined way of making money that's more aligned with the changes that you've made in your life. I do want to say, I just got this feeling that it could take a little bit for it to show up. don't be discouraged. I feel like maybe for some Tauruses right now, there's this sense that you've started something new and it hasn't paid off yet. And if that feels true for you, just because the Eight of Pentacles is like you're still in the working phase a little bit, and I don't think it's going to take the whole year-long transit, but it's like then we get to the Nine of Pentacles and it's like the next step is that you have totally achieved abundance. So I do think that it's going to take a little bit. I keep hearing like 3 to 6 months. I don't know. But I just be patient, which my Taurus people, you guys can be patient. So try your best during this time and allow Jupiter to uplift your self-esteem during this time as you work on honing in on your skills and working on this new thing or the new things that you've discovered are a part of your identity and you want to share with the world to as a way of making money. All right. Oh, I also want to mention the last time that Jupiter was in Gemini was from June of 2012 to June of 2013. So if you can look back during that time and see what was bringing optimism and joy and opportunities for you during that time, that could give you an idea of what to expect during this next Jupiter in Gemini transit. Okay, so let me know how this resonates for you guys down below, and I'll see you next time. Okay, so for my Gemini sun and rising, the star of the show, Jupiter rules your 7th and 10th house, and it's going into your 1st house. So I'll talk about how Saturn will square this from your 10th house, maybe a little bit for you guys. Okay, here's the interesting thing. Now, I started writing notes for this like 2 weeks ago, and then just got distracted with other stuff. And what was interesting was I had a calling to pull some cards for you guys, and I got some heavier cards. So I was like, all right, let me ask, what is the reward for Gemini? Because I was like, I can't tell them that I got those cards and not give them some good news. And I pulled the 10 of Pentacles, like ultimate achievement and success in your material life, your career, money, abundance, the feeling of abundance. So I thought that was pretty good. But when I tuned into that energy, and like I said, it was a couple weeks ago, but I was feeling that, you know, when Jupiter moves into Gemini, so May 25th, Mercury is going to be in your 12th house, and that's your ruler. So its movements do affect us Gemini a little bit more. And what I felt like was that there have been a lot of endings in your life recently, like major endings of cycles, healing, closure, betrayal, a significant loss of some sort. Because Saturn is wanting you to build something in your 10th house of career. And then in January of 2025, the North Node will join Saturn in your 10th house of career. This is big stuff for you guys, for your career, reputation, your life direction, your public status, your legacy that you're leaving, the achievements you want to make in this world. And, you know, change requires leaving things behind for these new opportunities. Uranus has been in your 12th house for 6 years now. So, you know, there's been this, Gemini have been different these past 6 years, especially the last, I would say, like couple of years after we had North Node in the 12th house, which was from 2022 to 2024. Oh my God, is that right? Anyways, when we had North Node in the 12th house, and we've had Uranus in the 12th house since 2018, then we had Jupiter in the 12th house for the whole last year. And so that's a lot of longer 12th house transits that we've been going through, and that's not where we love to be as Geminis. The 12th house is seclusion, it's withdrawal, it's loss, it's rest. It's like we have been in a long cycle of feeling like we're not quite ready to like embark on anything quite yet. Like it's more about like a waning moon. That's how it feels, is like things have been waning down for a long time, weaning, whatever, down for a long time. And I feel like this is so beautiful because it's going to be now waxing moon, because you've got Jupiter moving into Gemini, and then you've got Uranus moving into Gemini in 2025. So you're going to have more of those long-term transits in your first house. And the card that I got for you guys initially was 5 of Cups and 3 of Swords. So feeling like sad and disappointed about what is being left behind. And also because Jupiter rules your 7th and 10th house and now is going into your first house, maybe some of you guys have had to make really big decisions, not just with your career, but also your relationships, and who, you know, maybe there's been some heartbreak. Like, you know, maybe you left a career behind that you've dedicated a lot of energy and time and money for. And you're just recognizing that it's not it anymore. Because what happens in the 12th house is that it's the house before the first house, and it's where we go to find fulfillment on a deep spiritual level, to find unity with source, to find unity with that source, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. That's where we go. That's why it's a period of withdrawal. And so what happens oftentimes is we'll build this whole legacy, we'll build this whole relationship, this whole job, this whole anything big in our lives, this whole direction in life. And then when we get a lot of 12th house transits, what happens is we're shown that that actually isn't bringing us the fulfillment that we want. Because when we are forced to look at the feeling of uniting with source and the fulfillment that I mean, that's honestly what we're all reaching for on a spiritual and deep level. And so we're realizing that a lot of the things in our lives are not bringing us the fulfillment that we need on a very, very deep level. Now, I feel like Geminis are headed for big things. I've been saying this since I did the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction video. I'll link that down below because that started a 14-year cycle in your 12th house. I remember writing this. I was like, I'm going to spend a lot of time on Gemini. Like, you guys are going to see the timestamps and be like, she spent a long time on Gemini, because I feel like you guys need it for multiple reasons. 1, because I feel like there's been heavy loss, but 2, because I need you to understand your potential for growth during this time, your strength. It's almost like you've been so stagnant for so long, and that is not like us. If you listen to the first part, I talked about Geminis. I read an excerpt from The Inner Sky, and it's like Geminis likes to be in motion at all times. Even as someone who's an introvert, like I am more introverted for sure, but I still like have a lot of movement in my life, you know, like even if it's within my home and I don't want to see anybody, I'm not, you know, there needs to be a lot of perception all the time, constantly. So there feels like there's been, because of all that heavy 12th house stuff, and Pluto was in your 8th house for 15 years, all this watery influence like kind of like weighed us down and made us feel like heavy, like, and stagnant. But, you know, Jupiter moving into your first sign, in your first house, is going to bring that exuberance back. It's going to bring the enthusiasm back into your life if we can hone in on that. Okay, I haven't even talked about Jupiter and Gemini at all with you guys. If you're a Gemini rising, you could find yourself being attracted to wearing brighter colors during this time, or showing up in a brighter way in some way. Maybe it's like, you know, doing your makeup differently or doing your hair differently. And also, especially if you're Gemini rising, you could be putting on some extra weight. Now, that could also mean that you're working out a lot more, or it could be that you're overindulging, because Jupiter can show excess for sure. So look out for that. Anything in excess, too much optimism, too much of an ego because it's the first house, putting on too much weight if that's not something that you want to do. Those are some of the ways that things can show up. Also, obviously, being Geminis and Jupiter being in Gemini and expanding that, and our sense of perception in the world could really make us very scatterbrained. So look out for that as well as you're moving through this cycle. And remember to, if you need to come back to one thing at a time, right? Or focus on a bigger picture rather than what is going on in your immediate environment if you need to like ground yourself, or actually just ground yourself. Go outside, put your feet on the ground, in the dirt, in the mud. That will also help you bring you back to center. Meditate, so many things, yoga, working out, you know, because it's going into your first house, especially for Gemini rising. So definitely you're going to be expanding and refining what you want your body to look like, you know? So for Gemini sun, more so, I feel like even more so than what I said in the beginning about career, that this is for your career. I do believe it's going to bring positivity for your career. And this is great because you got Saturn trying to help you build something there. And so for any Gemini, you know, sun and rising, or maybe even moon, you're starting this new Jupiter cycle with evolution and growth in your career and how you show up in your relationships. When Jupiter's in Gemini, it means we're finding growth, expansion, and abundance in Gemini-like qualities, which come very naturally to you. So don't be afraid to allow your natural selves, your natural curious selves to show up during this transit. Because, you know, there's this like childlike energy that's so contagious with Geminis, and it's really needed during this time in our world because things are kind of heavy out there. And it's not going to change maybe what's going on out there, but if we can change how we move in the world, then people in the collective are affected by that as well. So, yeah, don't be afraid to showcase your natural, magical qualities because they're associated with optimism and joy for the collective at this time. So you're really going to be being seen for that. You can also take on some leadership roles during this time because there is a feeling that you are embodying Jupiter and Jupiter is embodying you. So Jupiter is like the mentor, the guide, the teacher. We want to make sure that we're staying open to all possibilities and taking aligned action when we feel that it's necessary, right? So we want to have that balance while Jupiter is in Gemini. Jupiter in the first, like I said, can bring like your physical health to the forefront. And because you just came out of a 12th house transit, maybe that 12th house transit showed you that the way that you are living your life was not helping your health, your physical health. And now with Jupiter in the first, you're wanting to make your health a bigger priority in some way. So the last time Jupiter was in Gemini was from June 2012 to June 2013. So if you can think back to what was going on in your life during that time, it probably was very big. I don't say very big, but it was a memorable year if you have a Gemini sun or rising. Whether that's good or bad, I hope it's good. But even if it's bad, you know, it's something that is breaking the wrong things down and expanding on the right things. So sometimes that can feel difficult, right? I forgot that I did not pull a tarot card for you guys during this whole read. I just went on my own tangent from my previous reading that I got from you guys because like I said, when I got the reward was 10 of Pentacles, I was like, okay, Geminis have to know that if there's been suffering, if there's been heartbreak, if there's been loss in their life, the reward is crazy. It's huge. It's huge. 10 of Pentacles, ultimate. Like, it's like, you've reached it. You've reached success. And you know what's interesting? Sorry, I'm just getting so much information right now to share with you guys. You know what's interesting is that when we think of 10 of Pentacles, it can mean that we have like all the money in the world. It can mean that our material resources are going through the roof. That's awesome. But the more important thing is the feeling of abundance, because many people have tons of money, don't feel abundant. When I pull a card as the reward is the 10 of Pentacles, it's telling me that you are not only possibly having actual material success, but you are regardless feeling abundant during this transit. You're going to feel that very soon if you don't already feel it. And it's going to be on a deeper level. Like I said, the abundance is like on a deeper level because we've really excavated so much in that 12th and 8th house. Okay, so let's pull a card for you guys to just get a little bit more information on the energy during this Jupiter in Gemini cycle. Oh my gosh, the Chariot. Number one, major arcana. Anytime I see a major arcana, I know that this transit is going to be more memorable. And because Jupiter is in your sign, I already knew that. So this is just confirming that this is going to be a really big transit for you. Now, when the Chariot comes up, it tells me that you are moving into a completely new direction. And it's something that we've talked about before. But, you know, the Chariot is like you are in charge of it. You know, like it's not like that things are happening on the outside, because there are other cards that have very similar meanings, but the outside world is like, I can think of like Wheel of Fortune. You know, Wheel of Fortune is saying, yeah, like, you know, tides are changing, but it's not up to you. Something outside of you is doing that. This is saying, no, you get to choose where you take that Chariot. You have the willpower. You take that willpower, you take that drive, you take this energy and you put it towards the direction that you want to go, and you will be successful. Like I said, just watch out for like excess ego. Honestly, I just, you know, as a Gemini sun, I spent a lot of time dissecting the Gemini part of myself and just the Gemini archetype throughout my life, because I had a lot of issues with it growing up. And I don't feel like a lot of Geminis that are, you know, watching this video have a big ego, but you just have to watch out for that. When I said all that because I feel like other people who are maybe not Geminis would disagree with that, but I just like don't agree with that we have any sort of like ego like that. But with Jupiter being in our first house, it can make us like that. So when you have such a powerful card, when you have such powerful, the guru in your sign, we have to make sure that we are using the energy in a way that is productive and not harmful to others or ourselves. So beautiful, 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 beautiful. All right, let me know how that resonates for you guys down below. Okay, I'll see you next time. All right, so for my Cancer sun and rising, Jupiter rules your 6th and 9th house, and it's going into your 12th house. Now, while Jupiter was in Taurus for the last year in your 11th house, it made you redefine and refine your friendship groups, social clubs, and any of your hopes, dreams, and aspirations for the future. Maybe it also made you guys have to put yourselves out there somehow on the internet to find more like-minded people that way. That's the beginning of, you know, the 14-year cycle, because Jupiter and Uranus came together on April 20th. So there's going to continue to be a lot of developments in that part of your chart. But now Jupiter is moving into your 12th house, and it's moving there to end any last things that are needing to be closed out into your life before Jupiter moves into Cancer, into your sign, where it's exalted in 2025. So whenever we have a 12th house transit, it's asking for us to go through periods of withdrawal, seclusion. Generally, we get this sense that we want to have some seclusion because we can feel that things are winding down. There's healing that needs to happen. There's closure that needs to come to terms with. There's possibly some sort of grief over a loss, because like I said, you're getting ready to start a whole new cycle. I just talked about Geminis because we just went through that for the last year. And actually, Geminis have had a lot of 12th house energy over the last 6 years. But so anything that is no longer working for you will be ending. And you can utilize this Jupiterian energy to allow that to happen and still remain optimistic and hopeful that Jupiter is doing this to bring you something even better. Okay, with this transit, I definitely see some long distance or overseas travel being healing for you during this time, because you've got your ninth house ruler going into your 12th house. And the 9th house and the 12th house are long distance travel, and the 12th house is overseas travel. And generally when something like this comes up, a transit like this comes up, I feel like you could want to travel somewhere to find some isolation and retreat from the world. So even if you don't go to those far off places, regardless, you're needing to tend to yourself during this time, Cancers. You've had a lot of energy in your 10th house and recently, and that's your public life, your career, your reputation, your public status, and you still have the North Node there until January of 2025. And like I said, Jupiter in your 11th, that could have brought you new groups, new friends that are supported or started you on that journey. But you also probably lost some friends or recognized that they were no longer in alignment and you had to let them go. And that can be difficult because Cancers love their friends. They love the people that they have around them. So now Jupiter is going to be expanding your 12th house, and that's the house of spirituality, subconscious thoughts, healing, endings of cycles, like I said. It will also highlight any self-sabotage that you've been subconsciously doing regarding your aspirations in life. And this could also have something to do with your health, your diet, your lifestyle, your belief systems. Maybe these have actually been kind of holding you back in some way. And obviously you didn't know it, right? That's why the 12th house is a hidden house. But Jupiter is going in and possibly expanding it so that you can see what kind of self-sabotage you might have been doing during this previous cycle before Jupiter moves into your first house and starts a whole new cycle with Jupiter. Maybe you're recognizing that you need to take better care of your health, and maybe it's more that you want to be in tune with your mind and body rather than just your health. And because this transit is in Gemini, you could be getting a lot of new ideas about your spirituality and your health. And on the flip side, this can cause overthinking about these things or overthinking about what you need to do to heal. So remember that healing can come from the thoughts, but it really needs to go a little bit deeper than that, especially when we're talking about the 12th house stuff. So try to remain grounded and come back to the body as often as you can if you're feeling like you're getting overwhelmed or you're just overthinking everything. Because this transit asks us to remain open to all the ideas that come about, all of the perceptions that we get. It can feel really overwhelming sometimes in the 12th house. Now, you guys naturally have Gemini ruling your 12th house, so it's not going to feel totally out of whack for you guys generally. It's just going to maybe make it a little bit more noticeable. I also want to say though that when Jupiter is in the 12th, it's almost like having a guardian angel, and you may be seeing more synchronicities in your life during this time if you're open to them, if you're looking for them. Like something that it's interesting because when we go through the 12th house transits, obviously, like I said, all those things like ending of cycles, loss, retreat. But when Jupiter goes there, it's almost like you have this feeling that yes, things are falling away, but you know that it's for your higher good. So if you feel that, stay with it. Try to stay with that. Because, Jupiter can bring optimism to your subconscious thoughts and resolve some of those self-limiting beliefs by allowing us to see them, right? Like the stuff that happens in the 12th house is not visible to us generally. So when we have an opportunity to see what's going on in there, we should really take it because it wants to end something that is no longer working. So I in addition to the advice I gave in the first part of the video, I want to say that some actions that you can take during this time that could be helpful is giving to charity, working with the underprivileged in hospitals, prisons, homeless shelters, or anything similar to that. This will bring you great joy and luck and fulfillment during this time. You could also be being pulled towards bringing more spirituality into your day-to-day life. And for some of you, this could be even going to school or traveling somewhere to learn about something spiritual, or going somewhere to do a meditation, like a meditation retreat. And any 12th house transit can show periods of withdrawal, like I said. Like, you're not going to be in withdrawal for a year, but you will have more periods of withdrawal than normal. The last time that Jupiter was in Gemini was from June of 2012 to June of 2013. So think back to that time frame and kind of what opportunities were brought to you during that time. What was expanded upon? What kind of healing took place? What kind of endings took place then? Okay, so let's pull a card for you guys to get some more information on what this transit might be about for you guys. Cancer, Sun, and Rising. Okay, cool. That's great. The King of Wands. So the King of Wands is, whenever we talk about the wands, it's often like creativity, entrepreneurship, passion, activities, hobbies. This is the fire element. Now, when it's in the King, it's a mature energy being brought to that. So I just got something right now that maybe some of you guys are turning some sort of hobby or passion into a career. That just came up because fire energy, I don't know why it came up. Why am I trying to figure that out? You know, it just came up. This can also feel like a little bit Jupiterian, and because the King of Wands has the long view. So once again, when Jupiter is going through a 12th house, if we can maintain a vision for the future, and we just had the full moon in Sagittarius on May 23rd, right before this ingress of Jupiter going into Gemini, so more Sagittarian energy. If we can maintain like this long-term vision and optimism and maturity to understand that there is something beyond anything that we're going through right now, that can really help us when we're going through a difficult period. And this is the card to me, like, you are going to be presented with a lot of opportunities to be an entrepreneur or like a leader in something. And it's up to you, because the King can make it happen, but you have to decide that you want it, that you want the direction to go this way, that you want it to happen a certain way. You want to take that skill or whatever that, like I said, I'm feeling like it's something of, it's like a passion. It's a hobby that it could be there right now and you're not looking at it, or you're not seeing it. Maybe you're looking at it, you're not seeing it. But this is saying that you have the opportunity to make something of that. Now, the 12th house isn't generally the best time to start a new huge cycle in your life, but you can start if you have like a side hobby or a passion project or anything that you've been wanting to become a leader within or become an entrepreneur that you're passionate about. It just has to be something that you're passionate about. Then you can start moving towards that. And then when Jupiter goes into your first house in 2025, it can just expand on it, right? So the 12th house doesn't mean that we can't start anything new, that it's just for endings. We just have to make sure that we're giving time and energy towards those endings as well, and not just trying to blaze forward into something new without resolving and healing the past, our subconscious, things that need tending to internally right now, okay? So let me know how that resonates for you guys, and I'll see you next time. All right, so for my fellow Leo risings and Leo suns and maybe Leo moons, Jupiter rules your 5th house and your 8th house, and it's moving into your 11th house. So this is great. What I feel for Leos is that you are redefining your hopes, aspirations, and dreams for the future because of the changes that have happened in your career house while Jupiter was in there for the last year. And this is such an expansive placement for you because Gemini is sextile to your sign. So it's a little bit of an easier adjustment than Jupiter going into Taurus like it has been for the last year, which may have brought a lot of growth, but it might have been somewhat difficult for us. But now you're moving on because of the things that have happened in that in your career, your public status, your reputation. Now it's changing what your dreams for the future will be, right? Because you've got new insight now. And Jupiter and Gemini is all about perception and seeing new things and adjusting because of them. You're finding where you belong in this world, the communities, groups, and clubs that you want to be around, the friends you want to have, the support you can get from humanity, and where you can be of service to humanity as well. So Jupiter expands, but in that process also refines. So when we have Jupiter going through the 11th house, if there are any associations that, like friendships, groups, clubs, anything, organizations that you aren't aligned with anymore, it will also expand that unalignedness. And so that you will feel it more and it will generally go, or it gives you an opportunity to let it go. So this can even be like if you're a Leo person who is working for a large organization, this can also be a time where you're recognizing it's not just friendships, you know? So if during the Jupiter and Taurus, you still weren't able to quite let go, I feel like this is more specifically for Leo, sun, rising, moons who are working in large organizations, who could be deciding if that's in alignment with them still during this transit. A lot of Leos have been called to follow their passion in their career because of Jupiter in Taurus transiting our 10th house for the last year. And it made a lot of us realize that our passions can be our career. And if you didn't recognize that, now that you have your 5th ruler moving into the 11th house, maybe it'll really break it down for you, because our previous Jupiter and Taurus transit, our 5th house ruler was going into our 10th house. So the 5th house is about passion, creativity, romance, fun, entertainment. So we could have been trying to bring more of that into our life direction, into our career, our public status. So even if you didn't change jobs into a passion job, you could have made yourself appear to the public as more fun, as more entertaining, as more playful. Now, having Taurus on our midheaven makes us very security and safety oriented as Leo risings specifically. And this is beautiful, but also Taurus can be stubborn, and Leo risings specifically have a tendency to stay the course, especially in their career, even when it's long past the expiry date. We're well, this is what we decided to do, and we're gonna, because there's this stubbornness, there's this fixedness when it comes to our career. But really, for Jupiter, when you have Leo on the ascendant, any fixed sign, it means that all of your angular houses, your 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th are ruled by fixed signs. So we tend to just, Leo people, especially Leo risings, tend to just be very fixed in a lot of areas of their lives. But Uranus has been in Taurus in our 10th house, trying to shake us up for the last 6 years. Come on, let some of this change. Allow yourself to have some uncertainty in your life. And it's hard for us Leo people. So this transit with Jupiter going into your 11th house, it could be about joining groups that encompass your sense of creativity, fun, romance, and play more. So joining like-minded people who share in your creative passions. Or you could just be finding new friends groups, social clubs, social engagements, or humanitarian efforts that really resonate with you. I could also see this as a time that if you have had to take some loans out or make a financial cut in your life to move towards a more aligned life, during this Jupiter in the 11th house, I think you're going to be seeing some of that change in a positive way. So maybe paying off loans in some way, because this is your 8th house ruler. You could also be getting like social media fame. And when I say that, it sounds so silly because it's like, oh, so we're all just gonna be famous, Leos and Leo rising. It's like, no, like when I talk about fame, I'm talking about like fame with like a lowercase f, you know, like you can have, to me, having 1,000 subscribers is fame. That's crazy. Like you have 1,000 people watching you, 1,000 followers on Instagram. That's crazy. Like you've gathered people in your field who are wanting to come to you for whatever you're offering. So when I say social media fame, I'm not saying that it's like you're going to be the next influencer. I mean, you could, but you know, it's like a localized fame in your niche, you know? And if that's not something that you're even working towards at all, then it could just be more increased popularity in your social groups. Something about these groups, though, will definitely be helping us to push forward in our career, reputation, legacy, public life, or achievements. Jupiter in the 11th can bring you a social group or new friends who are expansive, generous, high-minded, or well-educated, and you can learn a great deal from them. If that's not true, then you're going to be the Jupiterian person showing up in these groups and organizations as a Jupiterian person. Oftentimes, when we attract certain things into our lives, it's because we are not allowing that part of ourselves to be integrated. And so sometimes when we attract Jupiterian friend groups is because we're not really embodying the Jupiter qualities. So really, you could be the Jupiterian person in your friends groups, the fun, expansive, knowledgeable, optimistic, joyful person in the group. And if you're not, that's okay. You may just be attracting some of that into your life via friends groups so that you can bring some more of that into your life. So as a Leo rising, I want to give you guys a personal example of the previous Jupiter in Gemini transit, which was from June 2012 to June 2013. So you can see how my 5th house ruler and my 8th house ruler going into my 11th house looked during that time for me. So during that transit, I started going to meetups around locally. There were meetups regarding spirituality and newfound hobbies and passions of mine. So that's the 5th house stuff, right? I was really hopeful for my future because I was finally pain-free after a period of 3 years where I was pretty much in disabling pain every day. The pain came back in a different way years later, but at that time, for that year, that was the year I was pain-free. And I was so hopeful and optimistic for my future. I just was feeling so great. I was looking forward to starting my doctoral program in September of that year, meeting new friends. And the 8th house stuff came through because the 8th house rules other people's money. So investments, loans, inheritances, joint resources if you're in a partnership. But I got support from loans to follow my dreams to go to pharmacy school. So that's how the 5th and 8th house came into play for me, into bringing me into like-minded groups, social aspects too, but really it was me being hopeful and changing the way that I saw my future looking, because it looked really bleak there for a few years for me when I was really dealing with my autoimmune stuff. So let's get a tarot card for you guys as well to further, okay. I'm gonna get another one. Sometimes when they flip out like that, sometimes it's like screaming at me, and other times I'm like, nah, that wasn't quite it. Super interesting. So I got the Page of Cups, and then I got the Ace of Pentacles. So obviously the Ace of Pentacles is a great card to get because it's saying that we're starting something new in the financial or material sector in our lives. There are new ideas, and Jupiter is in Gemini, right? So we're going to be presented with multiple ideas regarding our 11th house stuff. So lots of different opportunities to change our aspirations for the future, lots of opportunities to join groups, organizations that are like-minded. And we have to make the decision to act within alignment towards the ones that are calling us. But this is saying that something new is starting within your finances or your career. So you are going to, during this transit, have an idea, or if you already have had one, maybe a new one comes. Because you see, this is an offering of a pentacle. So maybe you're getting a new job offer that's more aligned. Maybe you're creating this for yourself, but honestly, when I get this card for myself, me or someone very close to me, generally my partner, there's some sort of a offer being made regarding a job, especially we've got this whole year. I really do think, especially like I said, if you're somebody who's still working within an organization, I do think you're going to get a new offer that is going to be more aligned. If you don't, you can create it. You can decide that you want to create something new in your finances, in your career, in your material life, really. But also, I got the Page of Cups. So this is actually very beautiful energy for Leo risings, because it's almost like this it kind of calls me to the 5th house going into the 11th house. There is a new sense of lightness in Leos in terms of our emotions, right? If you're a Leo rising, Pluto or Scorpio rules over your 4th house. So, we tend to be quite intense internally, especially if you're a millennial, because then you've got Pluto in the 4th house like me. So our private lives tend to be very intense, but this is telling me that there's some lightness happening. There's maybe you have a new romantic partner that is bringing more, because the page can often be like a messenger. Oh, I just got something. Maybe you have someone young in your life. Maybe you have children or like a young nephew or niece or something, and they're going to be prominent in your life during this time to help you feel lighter. But there's just this like general feeling of like emotional lightness and fun underlying whatever is going on in your life, whatever changes, whatever heavy changes you're making them with a little bit more lightness. So yeah, let me know how that resonates for you guys. All right, Leos, I'll see you next time. All right, so for my Virgo sun and risings, Jupiter rules your 4th and 7th house and is going into your 10th house. Saturn will square this from your 7th house. So like I said, I'm not going to go super into this, but for you guys, I wanted to talk about this. Since Saturn entered your 7th house in March of 2023, there has been a lot of emphasis on your relationships and how you relate to others. And it probably hasn't been easy. I'm just going to put it out there, because Saturn's just, he's testing your relationships. He's testing you in relationships too. And sometimes when Saturn goes into our 7th house, if we're single, we can attract people who have those Saturnian qualities of being a little bit more harsh, rigid, hardworking, focused on their work, things like that. If we're not embodying that ourselves, but even sometimes if we are embodying it, when we have a planet transiting in the 7th house, oftentimes people like that can show up in our lives. And it's also showing if you are suppressing any of your own Saturnian qualities, like I said, that coldness, that harshness, usually it's the negative aspects that we're suppressing, right? But I mean, Saturn is like a taskmaster. So maybe you're not working hard towards things in your life, and so you're attracting someone during this time who is so focused on that you're like, what the heck? I'm not getting any attention. But the 7th house is really interesting. I love talking about the 1st and 7th house, because it just, when we have major transits in the 7th house, it really is like projections that can come back to us in hiding under a person, so that we can learn to integrate it into our own selves. So So yeah, so this could be with a committed partner, like I said, with new committed partners, a business partner, a close friend, anyone you relate to one-to-one on an equal basis. So now with Jupiter moving into your 10th house, you are going to see some tension between your relationships and where you are headed in your career, public life, legacy, reputation. The point of this tension is for your growth, okay? And Virgos are ruled by Mercury. So you guys also love to learn and you love to grow. So I know that, you're not going to shy away from this. And I'm talking about it like it's all bad. I mean, Jupiter in your 10th house, we like that, right? Like it's expansion, growth, optimism in your house of public reputation, your public life, your career. So but when you have Saturn in the 7th house and then you've got Jupiter in the 10th house, it's kind of hitting your angles in your chart, your 1st, 4th, and 7th and 10th house. So when we go through transits like this, there's a lot of things in our lives that could be changing. And I could see a lot of Virgos wanting to bring something new and prosperous into their 10th house. And there's so much support with this transit to have the career you want, the status you want, the legacy you want, the reputation that you want. And you're going to be given a lot of opportunities because Jupiter's in Gemini. So it's going to bring an abundance of opportunities for you to do just that. But you have to also make sure that you're seizing the opportunities and you're taking it and you're taking action on them. Jupiter at the top of your chart can often make you be seen as a guide, someone who is spiritual or wise, someone that could be a great mentor. So if you're looking for a career at this time and you've been drawn to Jupiterian things that I just said, something that showcases those qualities could be greatly supported in terms of your career and your life direction. I could see you guys getting multiple opportunities to expand on your career. Since you guys just had that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your 9th house that started a new 14-year cycle, this could be even that you're going into higher education. You want to study more philosophy. You want to study different laws or the law. You could be becoming a published author in your career field. But this transit will give you some sort of inkling of that if you're interested in those ideas becoming a part of your future career. Some Virgos may have to move for a new career or find that their new career involves them being home a lot more because Jupiter naturally rules your 4th and 7th house. Some Virgos will actually be going into like properties and real estate. If you're into that, this could be a time when you're acquiring more property and making that a part of your legacy and life direction. Or your new career and public status could be brought about due to a deep friendship, a committed relationship, or maybe you're getting a business partner during this time that is going to help you expand on where you want to go in your life. If you want to start a new business, I don't know how they come up with this, but there's a statistic out there that the number one sign that holds the most entrepreneurs is Virgo. So very interesting, very interesting. I think really it's Virgo men. They tend to very much be drawn to entrepreneurship. Now, I mentioned this in the beginning of my video, in the overview, that Virgos are some of the ones that could possibly feel more scatterbrained or like anxious or overthink a lot of things when Jupiter's in Gemini, because you guys are ruled by Mercury as well, and this is squaring you. So like I said, there's some tension there. So just be aware of that during this transit. Because you're an earth sign, you do get a little bit more groundedness than us Geminis do. So congratulations. It may be easier for you to be able to ground and come back to the self when you're thinking about making directions. Now, I want you to think about the last time that Jupiter was in Gemini, because it was going through your 10th house. So what was happening in your career, your public direction, your public life, your status to the public from June of 2012 to June of 2013? because that might give you an inkling of how this could show up. Obviously, we have a lot of different transits during this time, but it could give you an inkling regarding all of those 10th house things that I mentioned, what was going on. I would assume that it was kind of a big moment in terms of that in your life. Also, let's get a tarot card for you guys to expand upon what this transit could be bringing for Virgo, Sun, and Rising. This is a big one for you guys. Like I said, I think the biggest thing for you is just... Okay. I think the biggest thing for you guys is just to make sure that any opportunities that come your way, you are seeing them and you're looking at them and you're seeing them and you're taking action on the ones that you want. Otherwise, this whole year might go by and you had a ton of opportunities and then you look back and you're like, oh, I totally missed that. You know, like there was so many opportunities. So just be aware of that. Now, I want to get a second card. Okay, so what I have here is the 3 of Swords and the 8 of Pentacles. Remember what I was saying about the relationships? Saturn being in your 7th house of relationships, like not being super fun, is not the best, easiest placement. Now, I just had that transit from 2020 to 2023, and it was not cute. It was not cute for my relationship and just how I related to others. But oh my God, after I got out of that 7th house transit with Saturn going in my 7th house, it was also my Saturn return. I'm not the same person in the best way possible, in the best freaking way possible. I don't act in relationships with one-on-one equal partnerships the same way. Friendships, my romantic partner, there is such a change in how I show up, how we do it together. So I'm saying that because like if you're feeling some sort of betrayal, if you're feeling heartbreak, if you're feeling loss in your life, know that you may be right on track with Saturn being in your 7th house. And if you can continue to hone in on your skills, find a skill set. Like I said, we're going to be given opportunities. If you don't already have a skill set that you are attracted to, that you're drawn to, that you want to continue building upon, this Jupiter and Gemini transit may give you opportunities and options for things that you might really enjoy. Build upon them, use them, learn more about them. Study it, but also practice it, right? This is like the apprentice, you know, he is working hard on the pentacles. This is regarding your finances, your material life, and this Jupiter transit is going through your 10th house, which is the earth house. So this really makes sense for me. And this to me makes me feel like this is Saturn in your 7th house talking. Now, I also want to say though, if that's not true, if you're not experiencing that in your relationships, if you're not, comment down below. If your relationships are like just flourishing during this time and have been since March of 2023, you are a special person. Seriously, because it tells me that you have been so aligned in your relationships that when Saturn came, it didn't need to break things up or like test things and put boundaries on things in the same way, because they were already pretty good. So literally, I want to hear from you. But this is a Swords card. So oftentimes this can also talk about anxiety, about overthinking, because this rules our mental realm. So maybe you are anxious about being hurt in relationships. Maybe nothing has happened, but it's keeping you from being in relationships because you are scared of being hurt. You are worried because in the past you've been heartbroken. Or maybe even this has to do with your career. Like maybe you're scared to change because in the past, when you've embarked down a new career field, it didn't work out, or it was hard. There's a lot of hardship and you experienced loss and betrayal during that. And so now you don't want to start a new career cycle because you're like, well, look what happened last time. It was a failure. It didn't work. what I want to say to you, if that resonates, is that you have to try again. Okay, you are ruled by Mercury, and this is a Jupiter transit. It's going to offer you some sort of optimism and joy to move forward in this new direction. And I think if you go slow and you really work on gathering the skill set rather than jumping into something completely new blind and deciding to like go down this path, take your time, be patient, work slowly. It will pay off. It will pay off, okay? All right, so let me know how that resonates for you guys, and I will see you guys next time. All right, so for my Libra sun and rising, Jupiter rules your 3rd and 6th house and is now going into your 9th house. Now, Jupiter is asking you to redefine your own values and beliefs. This means having to expand on some and also having to let go of some other beliefs that aren't aligned anymore or that aren't yours. You know, like a lot of times we pick up belief systems that are like the people close to us, because it's like this is your 3rd and 6th house, which is your immediate environment and your work environment. So maybe there's like beliefs that we've gathered in our immediate environment and our work environments that are not ours. And Jupiter going into your 9th house is saying, hey, let's like really figure out what our beliefs are. Like, what do we believe about this world? And this could be even like religion or spiritual beliefs, or it could just be your beliefs that you hold on the world. Maybe your beliefs are also, you know, too dogmatic and there needs to be some sort of change, and you can allow the chaos of Gemini to do that. Me as a Gemini being chaotic. Or maybe you have a lot of beliefs and Jupiter is bringing you an opportunity to get the ones that really matter to you. There's a lot of ways that this could be showing up. Jupiter is also bringing you opportunities for learning and higher education at this time. So if you're interested in going back to school or taking some sort of like long course, something regarding philosophy or law or spirituality in some sense, could be really helpful for you during this time. Now, Jupiter in Gemini is less about being dogmatic and finding the truth, but more about finding joy in the discovery process, in the curiosity and exploration of it. And for you, this could be exploration via travel, literally traveling long distances, because that's what the 9th house represents. You could be traveling abroad during this time. And, you know, I just felt that a lot of Libras may be moving into a job that's more remote so that you can travel long distances. Yes, because it's your 6th house going into your 9th house. So maybe something around your job situation is changing. It could just be your beliefs about how you do your job. But I can see that for some Libras, you're going to be able to travel more because of your job changing. You could also be learning more about health and fitness, diet, or even wanting to study to become like a veterinarian or someone who works with small animals. Maybe you're getting a new job or you're moving to a work environment that's more optimistic. Gemini is trine your sun. So this is a little bit of an easier time for you than when Jupiter was in Taurus for the last year. I think for you guys, more than many other signs, it's important not to get too anxious or scatterbrained, because this is the shadow side of Jupiter in Gemini, and you guys are an air sign, so we tend to be prone to being consumed with the thoughts often. But in general, this is just such a lighter placement that I think you guys are being okay. I intuitively don't feel like Libras are going to be super anxious during this time. I actually feel like you guys are going to be feeling less anxious because Jupiter in the 8th house also can bring up like deep anxieties, you know, like existential anxieties. And that's the transit that you guys just had for the last year. And maybe the things that just happened in your 8th house regarding your shared resources and your intimate bonds with the people that you're in a committed partnership with, maybe what happened during the last year is feeding into a completely new belief system for you guys, because something transformed in your intimate bonds, or deep in your psyche. Something was transformed, and now you're being able to experience that on a level of belief systems or travel. It could be encouraging you to look at life in a completely new way, and because it's Jupiter, that could be a much more optimistic way. Moving from the 8th house to the 9th house, which is what you guys are doing in terms of Jupiter, is usually seen as a relief. This would also be a great transit to teach others. If you're not the one who's teaching others, you could be attracted to working with a mentor or multiple mentors because it's Gemini, right? I could also see that you're gaining new belief systems that Jupiter's expanding and refining, and that can be something regarded to your health, yoga, fitness, diets, your daily routines, how you take care of your body. Yeah. Or even like new belief systems regarding how you interact with your siblings, your neighbors, the people around you. Maybe there's going to be more joy and optimism being brought to that, if that's an area of your life that has not been easy for you. Now, last time Jupiter was in Gemini was from June of 2012 to June of 2013. So think about what was going on for you during that time, and it might give you an idea of what this Jupiter in Gemini transit will hold. I would think about what kind of opportunities were given to you during that time that you wanted to expand upon, that felt joyful to you at that time. It could be more travel or something. So let me know how that resonates, but I want to pull a card for you guys to expand a little bit more, because this is a year-long transit. What is Libra Sun and Rising going to go through for this Jupiter transit? The Three of Pentacles, this is really interesting. Now, I intuitively, whenever, a transit's trine your sun or your rising, it tends to just be easier and more flowy, and it doesn't like smack us in the face. So this card also doesn't smack me in the face. But what's interesting about this is that the Three of Pentacles, it's about oftentimes collaborating with somebody or other people on a some sort of venture. So it's interesting because Jupiter and Uranus just had their conjunction in your 8th house. So you started this new 14-year cycle in your 8th house of joint ventures, shared finances, other people's money, investments. And now you get this for your next year, the transit for the Jupiter in Gemini. So this brings me back to what I was saying, number one, about cooperating with others. So in your immediate environment or your work environment, I think that you guys are really going to be seeing a much more cooperative and optimistic opportunity to show up in your immediate environment. So that can be like I said, your neighbors, kind of like the things that surround you on a day-to-day basis. So it could even be like the people that you live with, and also the people that you work with. There is just such a better energy more towards cooperation. And also, you may be working with people on starting something new, starting a new project, starting a new venture, because this Pentacles is regarding the material life. So it could really be like a job now that you're working with other people in a way that feels more authentic to you, because the 6th house is your job, your work environment. But overall, I like this for you guys. This feels a lot better than the energy that I was getting with Jupiter being in your 8th house. Yeah, I do. So yeah, also let me know how this resonates and how you see this showing up in your life. And if not, come back a year later and see how it showed up during the transit. All right, Libras, I'll see you guys next time. All right, so for my Scorpio sun and rising, Jupiter rules your 2nd and 5th house and is going into your 8th house. Okay, Scorpios, you guys have been on a wild ride with the last several years in terms of your relationships, any business partnerships, or contracts. and how you relate to other people in relationships. So now Jupiter moving into your 8th house could possibly bring an opportunity to heal based on what happened in the 7th house. If the issues with relationships and relating to other people were worked out appropriately, then you'll have an expansive quality in your ability to form more intimate bonds with the people in your life. And this could be like healing. I could see this like via therapy in some way, like going deeper into what happened from the 7th house. There could be an increase in sexual intimacy or desire in your relationships, whether that's in an existing one or a new one, but generally this is sexuality within committed partnerships. So just keep that in mind. You could be viewing the give and take in partnerships in a new way during this transit, because the 8th house is really about give and take within relationships and values within relationships. So this is a house of joint resources and finances. So this could even look like you receiving an inheritance, returns from an investment, divorce settlements, lawsuit settlements, a tax refund, or your partner could be increasing your wealth in some way. So they could be, making money, and so they're bringing more money into your relationship. You may even be able to get a loan if that's what you need during this time, because Jupiter is making that a little bit easier for you. It's just somehow associated with other people's money and not money that you directly earn. So this is also the house of transformation. But with Jupiter here, it could mean that you are more open to transformation during this time, that it could feel lighter, that there could be a sense of optimism within that transformation and not have it be so heavy and dark. I could see that your own self-esteem and your own values are being transformed during this time because of something that recently happened in your relationships or within your relationships with your relationships or your business partnerships. You've learned something and now you're transforming your own values and self-esteem because of that. Now, you guys have Saturn in the 5th house of creativity, romance, play, fun, children, hobbies, and it's going to be squaring this off and on. And I'll make its own video for that, but I just wanted to mention that because I can see that somehow the stuff in the 5th house that I just said could be impacting the growth that you're looking for in the 8th house. So if that resonates, let me know how that's resonating for you down below. And because Jupiter rules your 2nd and 5th house, there could be transformation of existing personal income or your hobbies and romance. Maybe there's transformation in the way that you view love, romance, play, entertainment, love. I could see this in a lot of different scenarios. So you could be also transforming your income because it rules your 2nd house, because you're more focused on joint ventures or the money that other people are bringing in, or vice versa. But there's something about love, romance, dating, and creativity that could be going through a change, transformation, or a period of experimentation. The 8th house is also the house of karmic debts, but this could also be good and bad. Whenever we have long-term transits, especially through the 8th house, you could be paying off karmic debts, especially when you have something like Jupiter in this place of your chart. It feels like it could be more positive. Now, I just got out of a 15-year transit of Pluto being in my 8th house for my sun. So I'm saying this from a place of knowing very recently that yes, it can be hard if there are karmic debts to pay. And that was Pluto, so that was a lot harder than Jupiter. But you get a lot in return. Your life becomes much more aligned and easier as we pay off those karmic debts. Now, I want you to think about the last time that Jupiter was in Gemini, from June 2012 to June 2013. And think about what was happening for you regarding your intimate bonds, joint ventures, shared finances, other people's money during that time. And that can give you an idea of what kind of story could be playing out for you during this transit. Now, it could be wildly different, but it would have similar themes probably, right? I feel like I wanted to talk a little bit more about your hobbies. I feel like some of you guys are going through a period, because Saturn's in your 5th house, that your creativity feels like that there's being boundaries placed on it. Now, this can show up in a lot of ways. This can show up that you're feeling like a writer's block. You're not feeling the creativity that you used to. Or because Saturn forces us to work hard towards something, maybe you're working really hard towards making your passions and your creativity a part of your life. And during Jupiter in the 8th house, I just got this. You guys may be getting support from other people's money, in order to, or just support from other people financially, in order to further your creative hobbies, if you are working on making that a part of your life, part of your career. I just got that. That's very, that was very specific, but if it resonates, let me know. Now, I want to get a tarot card as well for you guys. Let's see here. What can Jupiter, or Scorpio Sun and Rising expect for Jupiter and Gemini? Chaos. I love being a Gemini. We're so chaotic. I love it. Wow, that's beautiful. This is inner strength, you guys. Okay, so here's what I'm getting. Now, Scorpios, you guys are ruled by Mars and Pluto. There is a very primal instinct in you guys. There is a very primal instinct. And in a lot of people talk about this in terms of sexuality, and you know what, we can, because the 8th and the 5th house are in play, and those are 2 houses that deal with sexuality. So you guys can be very intense in those ways, in those areas of life. But also, you just tend to be very primal in a lot of ways. And in relationships, there tends to be just a lot of intensity in the things that you're passionate about, which is amazing. I love that for you guys, because it's so similar in a lot of ways to me, and also very different. What I always say about me and Scorpios, I love Scorpios, and I've had a lot of really close friends with Scorpios, is that because I'm a Gemini, and Scorpios will go down into the underworld, and as Hermes, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we can go in the underworld, we can go to the heavens, we can stay with the mortals. So it's like I'll join my Scorpio friends down at the underworld, but I come back up, and they tend to just stay down there a little bit longer, you know? But anyway, so what this is telling me is that there is something's being asked of you to tame some sort of primal instinct right now. And this is a major arcana card. So this is going to be kind of a big deal for you in your life, even if it doesn't seem that way. What's being asked of you is more than just for this whole year while Jupiter's in Gemini. It's asking for something to change deep within you. There is a huge transformation, which makes sense because Jupiter is going into your 8th house of transformation. But it feels like you guys are honing in on a new way of showing your strength. This is an opportunity, right? It's not going to just be handed to you. You have to take it to show up with all of your intensity, but in a way that is, how do I say this? It's almost like I never want to say don't have the intensity of Scorpio. Like, come on, you're Scorpio Sun, Rising, Moon. Like, you're going to be intense. But, and it's beautiful. We love that for you. What this is saying, though, is that can you harness that into more of an inner strength and not focus on exerting any of that power, authority, or control outside of you? You're being asked to look at any instinctive or primal urges that you have, even if that's within sexuality in your relationships, or how you deal with other people, or joint ventures or investments, and see if there needs to be a little bit of refinement, because Jupiter is refining. And this feels to me like refining. You see how This person is taming the lion, is able to approach that lion, that ferocity, with a sense of compassion, with a sense of love and dignity and honor. So I think that's what it's asking you to do, is to look at those parts of you that are feeling really intense and primal right now, and love them and have compassion for them, and build them up into something that is deeply a new sense of inner strength for you. Okay? So let me know how that resonates, and I'll see you guys next time, okay? All right, so for my Sagittarius sun and rising, Jupiter rules your 1st and 4th house and is going into your 7th house, so all angular houses. And Saturn is going to be squaring this from your 4th house. And I'm not going to talk too much about that because I'm going to make its own video once it gets closer. It's going to happen a couple of times, but also, not only is this happening in your angular houses, but Jupiter is your ruler. So whenever it transits different signs, it affects you a lot. And now Jupiter is going into your sister sign of Gemini. Hi, it's me. Gemini rules your 7th house of committed partners, business partnerships, and how you relate one-on-one to other people. So you could be attracting a lot of different possible partners. If you are single, yeah, this could be a time that could be really fun for you in terms of dating. I also always want to say that this house looks back to the 1st house, you, and how you show up into relationships. Planets that transit here tend to show us something that we are looking for outside of ourselves that is already within, but is not integrated, or show us aspects of ourselves that have been in shadow that we haven't fully accessed. Because Jupiter is a benefic, this tends to be more of a positive thing for you guys during this transit than if there was something like Pluto here, which is what I'm dealing with right now. So it could be that you could bring partners to you who are very Jupiterian, so joyful, expansive, knowledgeable, spiritual, well-educated, maybe even religious during this time. However, always remember to bring some sort of caution regarding being overly optimistic in dating or your relationships as well, because maybe you might miss something, such as them actually being overly rigid or dogmatic, which is like the opposite of Gemini energy, right? So we don't want that. If you are already in a relationship, there could be some expansion in your partner's life during this time. Maybe they're looking to pursue higher education, travel more, or becoming more spiritual during this time. It is also expanding anything that's already happening within that relationship. So you'll get a good gauge, I think, during this time if this current relationship is supporting your growth and the other person's growth or not. If you're not in a relationship, I've heard a lot of stories about people meeting partners during this time that can bring growth, that can increase your faith or optimism in your life. Now, it is Jupiter in Gemini, so you could be presented with a lot of different options for people to date and not pick one. That can definitely happen too, because Jupiter in Gemini tends to bring a lot of things and opportunities our way. So make sure that, you're staying even-keeled, not being too optimistic, but also being optimistic and learning to take aligned action so that you're not letting something slip through your fingers. If somebody that is really great comes up during this time, don't think about the grass is greener on the other side, right? It's like, well, I'm so cliche, but whatever. The grass is greener where you water it. But don't get too caught up in the belief that like something better could be there. I think that it's a really fine line in relationships for us to not feel like we're settling, but also not feel like we're looking for something that is really high in expectations. And yeah, that's a fine line. And I can't address all of that in this video, but just know that you're kind of towing that line during this transit. So, it's important for you to stay as open and receptive as possible in this part of your chart during this transit and not expect anything in particular. that's when Jupiter in Gemini gives its best results. But like I said, taken too far, we won't move towards something that is aligned and supported. So if you're dating, don't be obsessed with finding the right person. They have to be this way. Just remain as open as you can. Now, if you have your own business, this can be really supportive for you. You can actually bring like family members. You can garner a lot of support from other people during this time. It could be from complete strangers, from family members, or you could be attracting a business partner during this time, or a romantic partner who is wanting to help you grow your business. Because Jupiter is your 4th house ruler and you have Saturn there during this time, relationships could be bringing tension regarding your home or property. Or maybe relationships and how you relate to others will allow you to address childhood wounds that come up, or any trauma having to do with your relationship with your mom. You know, we often talk about how when we are in committed relationships, we play out a lot of the scenarios that we grew up with in our childhood, those emotional foundations, the trauma that we experienced in our childhood, and that we're often looking for either a mom or a dad through our partners. So that could be really coming up for a lot of Sagittarians during this time, especially if you're single. But even if you're in a relationship, that could be coming up within your relationship. You could also be attracting a mentor during this time. If it's not a relationship, you could be attracting somebody who is Jupiterian, a mentor, a spiritual guide, a really great therapist. Now, the last time that Jupiter was in Gemini was from June 2012 to June 2013. So I want you to think about what was going on in your life regarding relationships and how you relate to other people. Maybe something about how you relate to other people was changing during that time, or something was changing within relationships. You were dating a lot. Like, that'll give you a good gauge as to how this story will play out for you during this transit. Now, I want to get a tarot card for you guys to further expand on what this transit could bring. Jupiter and Gemini for Sagittarius, Sun and Rising, maybe Moon, maybe Moon. The Two of Wands. Okay, so this is great because Jupiter rules your 1st house as well. And when you have your 1st and 4th house ruler going into your 7th house, I was just thinking about something. Okay. So it kind of activates your angular houses. So you don't have anything transiting your 10th house, but when that starts happening, so when things start transiting Virgo, I'd be very curious to see what happens for you guys. So that's going to be around August, September of this year when planets start moving into Virgo. Maybe October as well. I haven't really looked at that. That's literally just came up. I'd be very interested to see what happens in your career during that time, because it's kind of been an empty, there hasn't been a lot of transits in Virgo. So that part of our chart has been like kind of stagnant. So 10th house, like public life, career, life direction, public status. Anyway, when I see Two of Wands, this is like very Jupiterian to me in the sense that, number one, he's holding the globe, the Earth, in his hands, and then he's got his 2 wands. So this is passion. This is creativity. This is about looking towards, you're making plans on changing something in your life. I want to get a second card to see what plans are you making. Now, automatically I think of something to do with passion and creativity because the wands are fire. So maybe there's something that you're really passionate or that you're feeling really passionate about during this time that you want to make plans on moving towards. So I want to get a second card just to see, get some more clarification on what we are expanding our horizons upon. Actually, I just thought of this too, because the 2 is always about making decisions, and Gemini is a dual, sign about duality and decision making. So, and bringing a lot to us. So once again, just compounding what I was saying about making sure that we're taking the opportunities and not just not choosing anything, but making sure that when we're getting different options, we are actually taking something and running with it, But I want to expand upon, what you're expanding your horizons for. Okay, so I got the 7 of Pentacles. So this makes me feel like you are frustrated with something is giving you results a lot slower than you expected or wanted. Okay, maybe some Sagittarius sun and rising, especially if you're single, have been having a hard time with relationships, or maybe if you're in a relationship too, you're having a hard time within those relationships or business partnerships or contractual agreements, anyone you have contracts with. And you're like, dude, I've been putting in the work. I don't know what's going on. And you're feeling frustrated with that. Now, this is also Pentacles. So it could also be something to do with your material life. So, relationships are our material life too, but it could be career and finances as well, that you've been like working hard and you're just not seeing the results. The advice is always keep working. It's coming. Keep working, it's coming. I'm thinking about Saturn in your 4th house, really putting a lot of harsh emphasis and obligation and duty towards your 4th house things, your emotional world. So like I said, there hasn't been a lot of energy in your 10th house. So maybe this is what you're feeling, is that like, I'm trying to put in the work, but I'm not really seeing the results because you're putting a lot of work in the internal world, which is just a period of time that you probably need right now before you can move forward in a big way for your career. And like I said, watch out August, September, October, when things start moving into your 10th house and planets start going through Virgo, maybe you'll see your career light up a little bit more. So what this is saying for me is have a broad vision of what things could look like. Right now, maybe they're not going your way. Maybe you're not getting the results that you want, but come on, you're ruled by Jupiter. Like, you have the opportunity to harness that Jupiterian energy to be able to look abroad, and maybe you need to travel. Okay, maybe some Sagittarius need to travel to regain that newness, that experience of that experiencing something new that allows you to remember that there is more than this current moment and what you are going through. But if you keep working at it, the results will come. Okay, Sagittarius? Let me know how that resonates. I'll see you guys next time. All right, so for my Capricorn sun and rising, Jupiter rules your 12th and 3rd house and is going into your 6th house. This transit could bring some expansion, optimism, and growth in your daily life. Have fun. Your health, your diet, time spent with small animals or pets could feel more fun and optimistic. Fitness, and even your work environment. Now, because Gemini rules your 6th house naturally, this can sometimes make you feel busy, and that busyness can sometimes feel uncomfortable for the grounded and earthy Capricorn. But it is a Jupiter transit, so I think that you're actually going to enjoy being busier and getting more things done. Capricorn do love getting things done, so just make sure that you're getting enough rest, relaxation, and alone time too, because the 6th house also rules disease. So oftentimes it's like telling us to listen to our bodies, and if we don't do that, there can be some disease. But like I said, Jupiter being there, it's not quite like that. It's not quite as difficult. So I don't really see that unless you are really out of whack. Like, unless your life has just been, you're burnt out. Then I could see that if you continue to keep going with the busyness, Jupiter can be like, hey man, slow down. I can also see some of this busyness being due to extra travel in your life or because you're deciding to learn new skills. Now, this could be overseas travel, but it could also be that you're increasing your travel in your day-to-day environments, in your routine. So maybe you're getting out of the house more in general, or maybe you are going overseas and you are expanding into long distance travel. And that's going to be fun for you. Now, when I just thought about your 12th house ruler going into your 6th house. This is a healing access, the 12th and 6th house. It's about health and healing. So there could be a lot of healing being brought to your life right now. So yeah, maybe you're bringing more spirituality. If it's not your job, you could be bringing more spirituality into your daily life because the 6th house is your day-to-day things. So you're bringing meditation, astrology, the occult, tarot, prayer, some sort of spirituality more into your life. We always joke in astrology that Capricorn placements tend to be the ones, along with Virgos, who aren't usually drawn to spiritual topics, but that's exactly why I think the ones who do explore those topics really bring more lightness into their lives, because Capricorn is so closely related to the material world that for you guys, seeing beyond that can be so beneficial. And if you're watching this video, you're one of those Capricorns. So thank you for being here, and thanks for being you. Maybe you're going to be I just thought about this, like maybe you're going to be actually watching more astrology videos during this transit because you're expanding on that part of your life. You could also be learning new skills for a new job that you recently got, or a new job that you're looking to get requires that you learn new skills, and so you're going to implement that. This is a really blessed time to move into a more joyful work environment or job. So if you're not happy where you're working with your work environment, you're going to be given opportunities, number one, to bring more joy and optimism into that work environment or job, or two, you're going to be given a lot of opportunities to leave that job, to find a new job. And it's up to you to not get overwhelmed, because Gemini can sometimes overwhelm us with too many options and seeing so many different things. It's up to you to make sure that you're grasping the opportunities and grabbing the ones that you feel aligned with. Yeah, so it's time to look at, is your work environment or your job beyond repair? Like, can you bring joy and optimism and expansion into where you're currently at? And if you reflect on that, you'll get an idea of which direction you're going to be going with Jupiter and Gemini. More opportunities to bring that into your current job, or if it's like it's just beyond saving, you're going to be looking for more opportunities to leave that job. Because you deserve to be happy where you work. You really do. Now, the 6th and 12th house, like I said, are the houses of health and healing. They're also the houses of sacrifice and hard work in different ways. In the 6th house, where this is happening for you, it's about the earthy and material sacrifices that we have to make. So hard work, literally working hard. Any transit that goes through the 6th house requires hard work from us to see the fruits of that labor. So I could see you guys working really hard towards something that you deem worthy of that sacrifice. And what will keep you working hard is, because it's Jupiter, you're going to be able to see that there's a bigger vision for this, and that's what you're working towards. In one of my previous videos about the new moon in Taurus, we talked about Capricorns and their speech within the home, or how they speak to themselves. So check that video out if you need a refresh. But how is that going for you? I'd love to hear that down below. I think in that video, though, I mentioned that if those things aren't resolved, then possibly Jupiter could bring some health issues into this transit. So yeah, I think you guys are working on that stuff, but I just wanted to bring you guys a reminder. The sixth house reminds us of our mind-body connection and possible illnesses that can arise when we aren't attuning what we think on the outside with how we live on the outside. Now, Jupiter can also help you heal if you're already dealing with some health issues with energy work or spirituality of some sort. So if you have any of that going on, look to a more holistic healing. That's where you'd want to be looking. So Jupiter in the sixth can also highlight service to others, generally in a physical sense. So there is some sort of sacrifice, like I said, asked for us. So maybe you are being asked to be of service to others more in your life, and know that during this transit, the more you can think of being of service to others, the more joy and abundance Jupiter will give you. So I do want to pull an extra card for you guys to, or a card for you guys, maybe two, to further expand upon what we've talked about and what this transit in Gemini will be like for you. Okay, so we've got Knight of Cups. Let me pull another one here. Okay, and the King of Wands. Very interesting. Okay, so we've got the Knight of Cups, which to me, when this comes up, is this, the cups has to do with emotions. And so this tells me, this kind of feels like we were talking about, okay, so you have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that happened in your fifth house, and a new moon that happened in the fifth house recently, and that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction started a 14-year cycle. And I remember saying in the new moon video that I did in Taurus that if you can't resolve the issues you have around communication and the issues that you have around communicating to yourself, so like your own beliefs and your own thoughts and the way you communicate to yourself and your inner child, because it's your fourth house, and other people in the home, that you can't expect to have fun and creativity and romance in your life if you're bringing anger and harshness and volatility and aggression, if that resonates, right? So this is just kind of like expanding upon that. I feel like that you guys are really moving into a space, which I love for you guys, because the Knight of Cups is ruled by emotions. These ruled by his heart, his feelings. That doesn't really sound like Capricorns generally, right? And this is what I always say about Capricorns is I think, because you guys are on the same axis of as Cancer, and I think, did Cancer get this too? That would be really interesting, because you guys are on the same axis. So similar themes can often show up for you guys. But what I always say is that, my partner is a Capricorn sun and moon, and it makes me realize how I believed in some ways like Capricorn are just as sensitive as Cancers, if not more. That's why it's harder to get to it, because there's so many walls, because there's like such a gooey core inside that they have to protect. They don't know any other way than to be kind of hard about it. And this to me says that something's lightening up with your guys' energy. Something's lightening up internally for you guys. And I love that for you, because you know what this card says to me? This is like fifth house stuff. Romance, creativity, passion. This is another card along with the King of Wands that could show that something that is really, that you're really passionate about, you could be wanting to make something out of that, something more out of that, whether that's just a side hustle or your career, it doesn't matter, or if you just want to expand on it. But the fact that we got it with King of Wands, this makes me feel like you would want to make something of it, not just keep it as a hobby. You want to become some sort of a leader in what you're doing. Now, these can also be people, because they're court cards. So during this Jupiter and Gemini transit, you may find that somebody in your life is being very romantic. Maybe it's you. But you could also be having someone in your life that's very romantic and bringing out this like lighter side of you, this more emotional side, this more compassionate and feeling side of you. And you could be leading with that more because of that. Or you could be bringing you could be bringing someone who is a leader. Because the King of Wands to me, you know, this is like mature fire. It's not so much about running into things, but it's like you've matured in something. So this could be bringing in someone who's very wise. I mean, Jupiter qualities I could see being a leader, being magnanimous, or this could be you. These two put together tell me that there's more romance and lightness or some sort of creativity, and you want to expand upon that. This is also the card of entrepreneurship, and I could see Capricorns really loving being an entrepreneur. That's why I brought up that maybe there's like a passion project that you want to make into something more. Let me know how that resonates, especially about this. Are you feeling, as a Capricorn sun rising, more lightness and ease? You know what? You may not feel it yet though, because this is regarding the upcoming transit. So I'm really excited to see how this plays out, and I would love to hear updates and progress as this transit goes on to see, like, what are you guys doing with all this mature leadership, the mature entrepreneurship, going forward with something and being very implementing it rather than just like running into it, you know, which that kind of feels very much like Capricorn energy and sixth house energy, you know, being about the details and not just jumping into something without knowing what you're doing at all. And then this, more romance, more love, more creativity, more passion, more feelings. I love feelings. Capricorns are like, oh, what? All right, you guys, I'll see you guys next time. For my Aquarius sun and rising, Jupiter rules your 11th and 2nd house and is going into your 5th house. And the first thing I thought of when I was channeling this was, get ready to have some fun, okay? You're going to be given so many options and opportunities to expand and refine the activities that you enjoy doing, what type of creativity you have in your life, your dating, your romance, the love in your life. If you're single, this could be a really fun transit for dating. If you're in a relationship, it could bring opportunities for bringing more fun and creativity, passion, and romance into that relationship. Now, I have been saying and feeling that a lot of Aquarians have had this like hermit and kind of a heavy energy lately. And I love that Jupiter's moving into a fellow air sign, trining your sign. And it's such a light house. It's a house about joy and pleasure. So I really feel like you're going to have more entertainment, more passion, more romance, creativity, and ease in your life. And you're going to have a lot of ideas for creativity and hobbies that can expand your chances of fun in your life. If you have children, this would be a great time to connect with them or bring more joy into those relationships. Now, I do want to say, with Jupiter being in Gemini and us just being so open and receptive to everything around us, these are just opportunities until you grab them, right? So you could have tons of opportunities and not move forward with them, and then it would just not be worth it, right? I mean, it would be fun. It would be fun, right? And we want to try to maintain an open mind about what comes to us, but we also want to balance that with making sure that if something great and aligned does come towards us, that we're taking aligned action towards that. So you may be sharing your creative passions or hobbies on the internet, and that could be profitable for you during this time because Jupiter is your 2nd house ruler of income, and Saturn's also in the 2nd house during this transit, squaring Jupiter, which I'll talk about later when it gets closer. So this Jupiter transit could look like making money through some sort of speculation like gambling or investing. But because Saturn's in that house of income, make sure you're not overdoing this and not taking any positions that are like overly risky during this time. I could see an Aquarius sun or rising benefiting financially from their creative endeavors. If it isn't a financial gain, then at the very least, it'll improve your self-esteem and how you value yourself. So even if you don't turn it into a job, investing in your hobbies, creativity, passion, romance, pleasure is going to, at the very least, change your values to be more optimistic and could up your self-esteem. So it's worth it either way. Or you're going to be spending more money towards your creative hobbies, or maybe even on your children at this time. If you're trying to get pregnant, Jupiter can bring luck into that journey. So blessings for that. Or like I said, your children could be bringing you joy or optimism during this transit. And so regardless, somehow your financial situation is somehow working with your ability to have joy and fun in your life and pursuing any creative or romantic endeavors. This also may be a time for you to re-examine your beliefs and see if they still make you happy, because this is a house about being happy and joyful. So if they still support your desires in dating, your beliefs, and if they support your desires in having fun or your creative projects. So maybe something will be needs to be tweaked here, and you can use the chaos of Gemini to find all the possibilities for what needs to change, if any, about your beliefs. Now, the last time that Jupiter was in Gemini was from June 2012 to June 2013. So you may have, if you look back during that time and see what kind of opportunities, expansion, joy was happening during that time, it could give you an idea as to what could be coming up for you during this transit. So let me know what that looked like for you guys during that time down below in the comments. I do want to get a tarot card and to inform us further about what this transit could look like for you. For Aquarius, Sun and Rising, Jupiter in Gemini. This for you guys. Okay, see, this is what I'm saying. So actually, Jupiter will trine Pluto in your first house very soon after it moves into Gemini. So it just makes me remember this like heaviness that's happening with you guys, like the transformation that's happening in your guys' sign. And what this tells me is that, number one, this is going to be really big for you guys, even if it doesn't showcase externally. I feel like this is going to be this period, this transit is going to be so uplifting that it's going to make a really big difference for you guys, even if that's only internally, because this is a major arcana card. So when I see a major arcana card come up, it tells me that this is marking some sort of significant point in your life, and the sun is radiating warmth. This is like the 5th house card. Like, sun is radiating warmth. This child is dancing on a pony. Look at all the colors. It's bright. This is Jupiter's color right here, yellow. There's warmth. There's fun. There's success. So something could be shifting here. And Jupiter rules your 2nd house, which is your income. So maybe you're getting your income in a different way. I think I mentioned that earlier with you guys. But this transit, I think more importantly than anything, and this just affirms it for me, is that it's about allowing more joy and optimism to come into your life after a time that might have been difficult. And Pluto being in your 1st house, you know, that's a long transit and it's going to be an unraveling story, right? It's like, we don't know where it's going to take us, but you'll get some reprieve when it goes back into Aquarius, back into Capricorn from September to November. So you got that to look forward to for sure. But I think that this will be amazing because Jupiter trines Pluto, like I said, and I think it's going to give you a sense of optimism that you can take into having Pluto in the 1st house for the rest of that transit, the 20-year long transit. This transit is going to be defining a lot of your attitude and how you move with that Pluto in the 1st house. So that's why I think you got a major arcana card here. Yeah, that's amazing. Let me know how that resonates for you guys. I'm excited to see what happens for you. Make sure to check back on this video and see how things progressed for you guys. All right, I'll see you next time. All right, so last but definitely not least, Pisces, Sun and Rising. So Jupiter rules your 10th and 1st house and is going into your 4th house. And Saturn is in your 1st house and will be squaring this Jupiter on and off during the transit. Now, not only are you one of the mutable signs that I mentioned earlier that this will affect, more than some other signs, but Jupiter is also one of your rulers, so its movements are very important for you. And Gemini is squaring your sign, so whenever this shows up, it can bring up some tension, but the purpose of this tension is to bring more growth into our lives. So this can be really beautiful for your home situation. This can be a new and bigger space for you to live in, more optimism where you live. And also be aware that Jupiter can make us feel really optimistic sometimes. So make sure that if you are getting a new place, you can afford it because, we want to just make sure there's some balance there. And if you've been working on beautifying your communication and bringing more harmony into your thoughts and words with all of that Taurus energy lately, this could really show its effects in your living situation now during this transit. So like we've talked a lot about Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your 3rd house. You had a new moon in Taurus in your 3rd house, and we talked a lot about your communication and bringing more harmony and beauty into that. And so like I said, if you've been doing that work, this year-long transit, you could be really seeing the effects of that. Saturn's going to be sitting in your 1st house for the entirety of this transit. Yeah, it is the entire transit. And we'll be squaring this Jupiter on and off. Like I said, I'll make a video about that later, but just know that throughout this transit, there's going to be some growth asked of you in order to bring this abundance into your home. Now, Jupiter rules your 10th house and it's going into your 4th house. So you may find, like your counterpart, Virgo, that you may see some sort of connection between home and career. So this could look like finding a career that allows you to be home more often or to work from home, or finding a career that I don't see this as much for you guys, but I could see you guys doing something with property and real estate. More so, I could see you guys working more within your home. Your career, your public status could change to become more private and more going on within your home. So like even if you're working on something that's very public, but you're doing that at home, if that makes sense. You could also start a new career with like decorating or designing houses as well. Jupiter in the 4th can have you redefining and expanding upon your relationship with your mom, your home life, your private life, or your deep emotional foundations. Because it's Jupiter, so you may be re-examining the beliefs that you were raised with and seeing if they still resonate with where you are and where you're going. The 4th house is the deepest core of who we are. It's our roots, it's our ancestry. So transits that go through this house are always an invitation to go deep into the depth of who we are and why we are that person. And Jupiter being in Gemini will give you a lot of options if you are looking to redefine, like I said, that relationship with yourself, with your inner child, with your mother or your main nurturer, caretaker as when you were growing up, your home, your private life. But I definitely see some sort of connection between the 4th and the 10th house during this transit. So something going on with your private and public life, career, or status are being affected, and how you are showing up, because it also governs your 1st house, Jupiter does. How you're showing up is a huge part of this. So it's not just about what's happening in your career and at home, but also a lot of emphasis on you and how you play into that role. If you're changing careers, a career in which you can showcase your emotions would be beautifully supported. For example, writing about your deep emotions in some way, maybe in some poetry or some writing, or putting your emotions on public display in some way. So speaking out in some way and bringing your emotional self into this. into the world, it would be super amazing for you. You may feel in general more inclined to emotional expression, which is amazing because Saturn's in your first house. And if there's any ailments that Saturn has given you, because Saturn being in your first house of your body, because, okay, so, you know, emotions and trauma trapped in our bodies can and will manifest into our physical bodies to get our attention. So when you have such a beautiful transit going through your fourth house, you're being given an opportunity to dive deep, but in a light and optimistic way, because it's Jupiter. So to look at any emotions or trauma that are trapped and bring them to light. And because Saturn's in the first house, and if it could possibly be bringing any of those ailments that I mentioned because of those emotions or trauma, you could help with that. You could help heal those through expressing your emotions. And this doesn't have to be to the world. I was just saying that because of the 4th and 10th house connection, but expressing it to somebody, expressing it out loud, expressing it to somebody outside of you could be super helpful for you. If you're not familiar with how emotions and trauma trapped in our bodies can manifest in our physical bodies, then this would actually be a really great time to look into that. You could also be working on bringing more joy or optimism in your relationship with your mother or relationships within the home. Okay, so the last time that Jupiter was in Gemini was from June 2012 to June 2013. So think back on that time. What was going on for you regarding your home life, your private life, your emotional foundations, your roots, your ancestry? And that can maybe give you a clue as to how this can be playing out this time around when Jupiter goes into Gemini. I also want to pull a card or two about this transit to get some more clarity on what is going on for you guys during this transit for Pisces, Sun, and Rising. Those didn't flip over, so if they don't flip over, I don't take them. And there's like 5 of them. Okay. That's freaking amazing. Okay, I want to get a second one. Let me clarify on this. I'll show you guys in a second. What is happening? What is the new cycle that's beginning? No way, guys. This is so crazy. This is how I know, like, as a collective, we're so intertwined. This is the 3rd time I've gotten this card. Like, out of all the cards I could have pulled, I pulled this one again. Okay, so amazing, 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 you guys. I pulled the World card. Okay, number 1, Major Arcana. It's so interesting because for, I believe, all of the mutable signs, I pulled Major Arcana cards. And that's really interesting because, like I said, you guys are the ones that are going to be mostly affected by this transit because it's going to be either squaring, opposing, or conjuncting your sign. And when I get a Major Arcana card, it just is telling me once again that this is an important juncture in your life. The lessons, the experiences you have, the lessons you learn during this time are going to inform a deeper life lesson for you. And so the World is a completion card. This is the last card of the Major Arcana before we start with the Fool. You know what's, oh my God, I just got chills. You guys are the last, this is your card kind in that sense because it's like the ending of the cycle, completion of something, and you guys are the last sign of the zodiac. The next card that comes up in the Major Arcana is the Fool, which is the card that I got for Aries, which is the beginning of the zodiac cycle. How funny. So we started this reading with Aries getting the Fool card and with Pisces, and now we're ending it with Pisces getting the World card. So we just went through the first and the end of tarot and the first and the end of the zodiac. That's crazy. Okay. Anyway, so what this tells me is you guys during this transit are going to be completing some sort of a cycle. And I deeply feel like this is having to do with feelings, emotions, relationships within the home or with the mom. like I said, you could be moving into a new house or getting more real estate or, you know, expanding on that. That is very likely. But I think at the core, what the fourth house is, because it's such a deep house and it's like the depths of who we are, like we said, or like I said, we being all of my personalities as a Gemini, that this is like I feel so happy that I got this card for you guys. It's like, okay, what this Jupiter and Gemini transit is saying is like, you've done a lot and you're completing a cycle, and this is a time for you to look and see how far you have come and be appreciative of the journey and your accomplishments that you've made during this journey. This makes sense to me that you guys are ending something because the fourth house is an angular house and it rules your 10th and first house, and you've got Saturn in your first house that's wanting to help you build a new way of being. And it's right now just doing that through limitations, obligations, and hard work and opposition and authority. So Saturn's doing that right now, and I think because it's in your sign until 2026, beginning of 2026, that this transit in Gemini is going to be showing you some sort of culmination to that. You're going to see yourself becoming this new version of you that is more mature, that is more hardy. You know, Neptune, your co-ruler, dissolves boundaries. Saturn creates them. So you are being asked to define yourself with Saturn in the first house right now, and Neptune is just not prone to doing that, right? Like, you guys rule the 12th house where everything goes to dissolve. So everything goes to be unified with source energy again. So this is not an easy like thing for Pisces, you know, and I think that's why it keeps coming up for me when I do these readings, because I haven't done any videos about Saturn in the first house, yet it keeps coming up because it just feels so important for you guys right now. And something is maturing, something is defining around your personality. And this transit, I think, is going to show you how far you've come and that you're ready for a new chapter in your life with that new identity, that new outlook, that new attitude that you move through life with. And it, like I said, it feels a lot more mature. Now, I also got the King of Wands, which this is like a very leadership oriented card. It's an entrepreneurial. I'm feeling very silly with you guys right now. And I hope that's how your guys' energy is feeling. Anyways, English is my second language, so you get what I'm trying to say. So if you're feeling like you want to start a new business, or that you're wanting to work for yourself, or you're wanting to become a leader in something that you're interested in, this Jupiter in Gemini transit will give you the opportunity to do that, because like I said, Jupiter rules your 10th house. So that's your career, your public reputation, your status, your legacy. And so I could definitely see some of you guys getting opportunities to change your career and becoming an entrepreneur in that process. But you have to take advantage of the opportunities that come your way, because Jupiter in Gemini is going to bring probably a lot. And so you don't want to not take advantage. You want to remain open and perceptive, but also be willing to take advantage of the opportunities that feel aligned to you. Okay? So let me know how that resonates, you guys, and I will see you next time.